Okay, I think that's a great question. And that is something that will require adjustments on the side of the professors and teachers, those of us who have not yet done it. Remember that the AI is not the faculty, the AI is a support to the faculty. And it will always remain in that fashion.
Hello friends, welcome to another episode of the AI Research Road podcast. Today we are diving into an exciting and timely topic, the role of new technologies in curriculum design, learning and the classroom. To explore this, I am joined by a visionary academic leader, Professor Anand Kumar, a passionate advocate for innovation-driven education and technology-enabled teaching. In this conversation, we will discuss how emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and immersive tools are transforming how students learn, how educators teach, and how institutions can future-proof their academic programs. Professor Anand, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you, Dr. Dilshad, and it is a great opportunity for us to dialogue and to share our experiences in this domain. And it's really very interesting and very evolving as well.
To start the podcast, can you please tell me something about you and your journey?
Yes, I did my undergraduate degree in electrical engineering, and it was known as electrical and electronics. And then subsequently, I did my master's and PhD both at Rice University in Houston, Texas. And then subsequently, I moved into the industry, in particular telecom software development, and I spent a number of years at Motorola and Ericsson. And then I moved into the academics, and I did that about 24 years ago. So it's been a very interesting journey, and it's also been interesting to see the evolution of education and the changes in the student approach and perspectives. And I keep hearing, okay, this is what happens in this university, not just in this region, but even in the US and other parts of the world. And then you start to think, okay, what is it that we can do to better help students to learn? And that has been a journey. Change is always a challenge, but I think it is a necessity. And if we want to really enable our students to succeed.
Thank you. Thank you. And now we are talking about this artificial intelligence. How do you see the artificial intelligence is going to change the game in the classroom environment and make it more personalized and engaging learning space?
Yeah, I see the personalized learning paths is very, very interesting and very significant because if you think for a moment, you have a broad range of students in a classroom. Any class that I teach, I have a broad range. And it depends on a number. I mean, even with all the admission criteria being enforced properly, you still have a wide range based on their interests, based on their the learning styles, and many of the parameters. You see a broad range of students, and it is very essential that we cannot cater to all the student learning styles and with the same approach of teaching. And it is very necessary to adapt, for example, to the particular student. But this cannot be done in let's say, in the 50-minute lecture or alone. It requires a whole support, technical and otherwise, which enables the student to continue the learning probably even after class, so that they have so let's say somebody is a visual learner. They learn in a certain way. For example, an audio learner may learn in a certain way. A reflective learner may learn in a different way, or a kinesthetic learner may learn in a different way. And each of them have a separate learning path in the support both by the faculty and the AI system. The engagement can be enabled through gaming, virtual labs, which will become very significant. Not that we're going to replace the real labs, because at the end of it, real systems have real systems have hardware and which you can touch and feel. But yet, virtual labs will go a long way to enhance engagement and the learning of the students. If you also think for a moment, although we talk about gamification, but I already see there is a TikTok academy, and I know that, for example, my daughter, she's quite a bit into TikTok. So we have to kind of enable students from all phase and through all means to help their learning. And I would just give a kind of an example with, for example, let's say an adaptive learning model. Let's say one student kind of struggles with the concept of amplitude modulation and frequency modulation. It can be given visual representations, but on the other hand, somebody is way ahead. He doesn't have to wait for the professor to pay attention to him. He can just go into the real world applications of FM radio or Wi-Fi modulation and so on and so forth. So you can cater to a wider variety of students in the days to come. And I would also say that the gamification will kind of enable students who like competition to learn. So you can say that, okay, why don't you decode this noisy signal faster than your classmates? And so then they get the opportunity to kind of try to speed up, and then they all learn in the process. So we try to encourage students in various ways through healthy competition. I'm not talking about cutthroat competition. In the industry, we always cooperate, but that will be there. But at the same time, competition is good to get the best of the students.
Oh, thank you. Now, talking about this curriculum design, because you are
Yes.
into this for a long period of time, how
Yes.
artificial intelligence can be implemented in curriculum design so that it cannot replace the traditional things?
Absolutely. And there are two dimensions. We must always remember in curriculum design, which has been, which is where I look at even the learning activities, teaching and learning techniques. I look at it from a curriculum perspective because the learning outcomes is what matters for the student in the end, and which have to be achieved. So the AI should be a support to curriculum delivery as well as curriculum design and redesign. That's the way I would look at it. For example, in delivering the content, you may want to use adaptive tutorials on modulation. The students have access to such information. That is, let's say, for example, a learning outcome you want in communication you want to deliver, you do it in that fashion. For example, analyzing bandwidth and spectrum. So then there you would actually give the student an opportunity through simulations, explore trade-offs between AM and FM and so on and so forth. Second is they get an opportunity to practice on this through simulations and otherwise. And then you also provide assessment and feedback. And this is important. It is not delayed feedback, but they get instant feedback. And the feedback is not just you're right or you're wrong. It is about the process that they take. Where are they struggling? Where do they take more time to learn? And you give kind of customized feedback. So that really would help the students to learn. I mean, so it's not like a traditional feedback, which, and also the learning is not that you don't tell them, okay, you're wrong, this is the answer. What you do tell them, give them hints to say, okay, let us see how you can, I'll give you a couple of hints, then let's see if you can get the right solution. So it's not about right and wrong. And that is a very, very important part. Secondly, the other dimension is also in assessments. Yeah, that's an important because there's a constant fear, especially among probably teachers and professors, or some professors and some teachers, that AI will be used unethically in the exams or assessments. And that is a genuine fear. I don't question it. But at the same time, what I would suggest is that AI should be used in students by students to kind of in the formative assessment. But in the summative assessment, it would be without AI tools. Because we need to preserve the integrity of the assessments, and so that the accrediting bodies would have confidence that okay, that the students are actually learning, and that's important. For example, in the delivering the curriculum, if you think for a moment, you can have a pre-class quiz which will assess how much the student knows about the topic. In the class, he can use virtual labs or AI chats to learn and actively and be engaged actively, or you can provide personalized study guides based on their weaknesses on the topic after class. So you're covering the student and the base in terms of pre-class, in-class, and post-class. Lastly, the question will always be, how do I improve the curriculum? How do I redesign the curriculum? In addition to the various parameters like the industry feedback and other things, what would happen is that the question will always come. Today, when we revise the curriculum, typically, major revision, I would say, happens after, if it's a 4-year program, you do it after 5 years because you want one graduate cohort to graduate. Then they go into the industry and then you get a full picture, or maybe even 2 years after they graduate. So 5 to 6 years is the minimum turnaround time for the curriculum change. But with AI, the potential is there to change probably on a monthly basis. So what we need to do is a proper trade-off, because once we make the change, we need it to run for adequate time, a minimum time, to get back useful feedback, not anecdotal feedback, but a more statistical feedback, which is statistically valid. So that's the kind of trade-off we'll have to do. But then, so they can be used even in curriculum design. So you have design, redesign, and you can do it for sure.
Thank you. Now, how can educators use artificial intelligence-based tools to ensure that learning outcomes are measurable, adaptive, and aligned with the real-world skills?
Yeah, there are 3 things that you mentioned in your question. One is measurable, the second is adaptive, and the third is real-world skills. And all of them are critical. Even the recent outcome-based framework, which the UAE Ministry of Higher Education has put out, is emphasizing a great deal on the industry outcomes, which is the real-world skills, which you're referring to. If you think for a moment, it'll provide one of the advantages is that it will kind of log the process steps of the solution provided by the student, not just the end answer. So let's say, for example, when you the student is trying to determine the frequency modulation bandwidth, then it provides how much time he spent on it, what are the misconceptions, it provides data on error patterns. So that is, I think, a very useful, detailed data analytics that's available. So there are competency dashboards. And also, for example, the achievement of a learning outcome can be, it could be basic, it could be proficient, it could be advanced. So the dashboards will help give us that kind of useful information. If you say analyze frequency spectra for a moment, AI records will show how accurately and how consistently the students interpret the simulation results. So these are, you'll see some of the very important elements. Also, if you see for a moment, there is scaffolding possible. If you ask a student struggling with modulation index, for example, AI can give hints, can give step-by-step worked examples, alternative explanations, maybe visual, maybe numeric, whatever, as per the learning style of the student. Some of the stronger students can be given advanced case studies, 5G modulation or 6G modulation, so on and so forth. So you can have various levels. A beginner can go with multiple choice questions. Intermediate learner or can say numerical problem solving, and an advanced student can do open-ended problems. So you have a kind of wide range so that you have a lot of, for example, you'll have to develop a lot of AI tools, some of which are available on the internet, but it has to be put together in one system. For example, you are going to, let's say you have industry-aligned simulations. Then you're dealing with what's the real noise in the industry. It is not like in the textbooks as simple as in the textbook, although even the textbooks are complex. The industry, the real world noise, the real world interference, real world bandwidths, limitations are different. What do the engineers really face in life? You incorporate it into simulations for the student in the class. And then you can also try to incorporate through the AI system problem solving skills, teamwork, ethical reasoning. All these are important from international accreditation agencies like ABET or even the national CAA or Ministry of Higher Education. I mean, they can also learn some real world skills like troubleshooting of radio receivers, wireless receivers, and so on and so forth. So you see that there are a variety. The student can be helped with not just the answer. Oh, it's not 10.5, it's 12.5, but you give them problem solving strategies, and that becomes important. You see problems, and they can actually do a simulation of an end-to-end system on the AI system, and they can do design iterations. They can find out the error rates and say, okay, this looks to be the optimal system. Okay, so that's and not rather than saying, okay, this is the optimal system. They can, by trial and error, find out what is the optimal communication system. So I think these are some of the things that would we have talked about. How can I be measurable and so on and so forth.
Thank you. AI has the ability to adapt content to different learning styles. What are the most effective strategies to implement this in everyday classrooms?
Okay, I would say that if you think if you want to, one of the aspects I would say is definitely multimodal content delivery. This is a must for any AI system that's going to support in the future classrooms and or the present classrooms and the future classrooms. Without the AI system, a system being in place, the faculty cannot just do it in the classroom in the traditional with this traditional approach. You cannot achieve it.
Can you please explain in simple language what is this multimodal?
Yes, I will do that. For example, a visual learner may require spectrum diagrams, animations, and frequency modulation signals. So they have a visual perspective of a particular concept. The auditory learner, you don't give them instead of the spectrum, you provide them audio demos of modulated signals. They can hear it. So these will be auditory learners. They can actually hear, okay, this is what this particular frequency of sound looks like. And so they can hear it. Or the kinesthetic learner you can have AI, they simulate something, and then they change the carrier frequency and then immediately see the results. So they're actually doing something hands-on. So I'm just talking about visual learner, auditory learner, and kinesthetic learner. And you can do that for every type of learner. You can create for them in the classroom multi-content delivery. So you have audio, you have video, and you have simulations. So these are at least 3 types that you would have in the classroom. Remember that the audio clips also can be generated for the same set of signals. One can be visualized as a spectrum, and the other one can be heard as an audio clip. So I think. So this is the activities, but the teacher role will be to facilitate the discussion. What does it mean? Why do you need noise immunity? What happens in FM radio when you have noise in the channel? Or you can give them, instead of just giving then you can say, look, design a frequency modulated receiver chain for a noisy urban environment. And you can give the localized example, culturally relevant of Dubai, let's say. So rather than just giving something as a US city, you can do it for Dubai. So that's the kind of the way I would say multimodal delivery is a very, very key parameter. There could be a number of other parameters, but multimodal delivery, content and delivery are very, very critical. And you can bring in the real world skills and all the other elements.
With the increasing use of artificial intelligence in lesson planning and content delivery, how do you see the teacher's role will be evolved in the next 5 years? And what a teacher should start learning from now?
Okay, I think that's a great question. And that is something that will require adjustments on the side of the professors and teachers, those of us who have not yet done it. One of the things I will use a parallel terminology that we have in the world of software development, what's called as a software architect, or you have a system architect. Both of the software architect has a kind of a software vision of what the product will look like, what are the coding standards, what is the full life cycle of software development, and they will manage technical teams. Whereas a software architect, a system architect will have a technical vision and they'll worry about both hardware and software and so on and so forth. So from being a professor who delivers content, we have to become learning architects. We have to have a learning vision for the student, not just a teaching vision, a learning vision. What do we want from our students, and what do they want them to learn? So we have a learning vision. We need to know the tools, the mechanisms, the techniques, how we can effectively enable students to learn. I think that is one transformation that will be expected of teachers in the next 5 to 10 years. Second, I would say is we must move from the concept of one size fits all to personalized mentorship. Every student, in a way, is unique. And every student is different. We all know this from our personal lives. No two children are the same. We know that, but this principle is now we need to apply it in the context of universities. Second, I would say very important is that we move away from the being a knowledge gatekeeper. Traditionally, we are all gatekeepers of the knowledge. We are the source of all knowledge, fountain of all knowledge, and of course, and so we become now a critical thinking facilitator, and we have to really focus on that. We have to enable students to question, critique, and then apply knowledge. We cannot just let them kind of just memorize data, information and data. So it'll be it's a great and exciting future, I see. For example, professor can spark discussion for FM demodulator on trade-offs, ethical implications, real-world engineering constraints, and so on and so forth. Also, last, I would say, there are a number of things we can talk about these things, but I'll talk about one more thing, which is instead of just grading exams and quizzes and so on and so forth, we have to assess higher order skills. Now, the question is that this is something that the higher order skills, as of now, AI might struggle a little bit to do, which is, for example, how do you assess creativity in designing novel solutions? Alternatively, how do you assess the collaboration and in team projects? How do you assess ethical reasoning, for example, in AI and communications and for example, spectrum fairness? So we will have to become assessors of higher order skills. So this is the third dimension. So I think we really need to, the role of the teacher will be significantly different, not the same as we have always seen. It will have to transform. We become a learning architect, we become a critical thinking facilitator, and we assess higher order skills. And our students will get out into the industry or higher studies, and they will blaze trails.
Okay, thank you. What about this assessment and feedback? We're talking about this artificial intelligence. Can this AI provide fairer, faster, and more personalized feedback compared to traditional methods of assessment?
I think they will. For example, because of that, they can probably do the grading while they are sleeping. They can do the work probably within seconds or minutes of the exam. If we can put the questions in an online format. I know that there are limitations. For example, especially engineering, how would I put in diagrams, circuits, and so on and so forth. But I'm very confident the technology will develop and evolve, and it's already doing so. And to support which means there will be a faster feedback. And it gives immediate, not really fast, it will give quite a fast feedback within seconds or minutes. You'll get an answer saying, okay, and give you a hint perhaps to say, okay, maybe you're making a little bit of mistake in here. See, one of the beautiful things, just bring in something else for Viva is over a quiz. Quiz is on a pen and paper, you get it right or wrong. But Viva, you can give a little bit of feedback to the student to say, look, how do you go about, give them a hint on the right approach. The same way we can have the faster feedback, and also more with hints and visualization that will allow the student to reach the right answer. Fairer feedback. So remember that human beings are prone to bias, unconscious bias, I say,
Mm.
not necessarily deliberate bias, fatigue, they get tired, inconsistency. When we mark on 50 papers, when we are not always consistent in the marks we award. And that possibility is always there. But with a computer system, with an AI system, which is well trained and properly trained. And I would say properly trained very importantly, because there can be bias even in AI. And we know that there are various, we already hear about it. There is bias. There's a question of reliability. But I'm confident in the next 5 years to come, they will fix these problems in AI. And we need to watch. Remember that the AI is not the faculty. The AI is the support to the faculty. And it will always remain in that fashion. That's what I would say, fairer feedback, and it also gives a struggle. It helps the top student, and it'll give the struggling student a feedback which is appropriate to the student. It won't tell the struggling student, look, why are you not learning this subject? But it will not tell the top student, look, you should not learn so much. So it will ensure that they are getting the appropriate personalized feedback, and it will reduce grading inequities and uniform criteria. Because the criteria for feedback is decided by the professor. So that is not going to change. Also, I would say more personalized feedback. The teachers sometimes struggle to give general comments due to time constraints. But visual learner can be given a feedback in terms of a visual correction to what they have given of their solution. A reflective learner can be given a step-by-step derivation. An advanced learner can be given a harder application like compared FM modulation to digital QPSK. So you can give, so these are all the dimensions of faster feedback, fairer feedback, and also probably more personalized feedback.
Mhm. Thank you. Now, I would like to talk on the ethical concerns of this artificial intelligence usage. What ethical considerations should any school or university should adopt, especially regarding data privacy?
Okay, I would say that whenever we do research,
Mhm.
we ensure this, especially in surveys. I'm sure all of us researchers will be keenly aware of it.
Mhm.
But the student data is very sensitive because the AI system will likely record process grades, process learning patterns, behavioral logs, and sometimes biometric or voice data. It should not be misused, it should not be breached, it should not be shared without authorization. So the ethical aspects would be collect minimum data needed, ensure it is encrypted, and strict consent policies. So these are the ways I would say that you can handle the data privacy and security. But the informed consent
Mhm.
is very important. It should never be forced, it should be freely given. And probably in the AI system which supports a course, all this should be constantly reinforced. The AI tutor, for example, tracks your problem solving steps to give you feedback. Your data won't be shared with third parties. So that kind of assurance should be given to the student as well. But there is an element that algorithmic bias and fairness is a very, very important. AI can unintentionally amplify existing biases. And if it's not trained on the right representative data set, for example,
Mhm.
you try to train it on US academic student data, you may think, okay, you may conclude, oh, some other students in other parts of the world are not as smart. So
Mhm.
these are the things that you may misjudge students with different linguistic or cultural backgrounds. That is, and or you reinforce stereotypes about academic potential. And I think we have a responsibility to audit AI regularly for bias, ensure diverse and representative data sets. That's a very, very critical. And you should also allow student to appeal. and contest AI-driven assessments. So these are some of the things, but I would say at the bottom of it, AI suggests, humans decide. So the professor will decide, but AI should be taken only as suggestions, not as the professor.
Thank you. Now, my last.
Let me just add one other thing here. There's an aspect of long-term data ownership. I think we all know, constantly we wonder, who does the patient data belong to? Does it belong to the hospital, to the insurance company, or the patient? But I think in today's world, we all know it belongs to the patient. It's the same thing with the student data. It belongs to the student. And I think that's the way we should deal with the long-term data ownership. Like, for example, they graduate and go, it still belongs to them as an alumni.
My last question to you, Professor Anand,
Sure.
is that how can you see this AI-enabled classroom in 2035, and what key features would define it? Please tell me in short.
Yes, I will definitely do that. I would say, in a way, not just personalized learning pathways, but probably you can use the word hyper-personalized. It is that is competency based. It is not time based. Second, I would say multimodal immersive content. We've already seen that. Mixed reality, AI-driven mixed reality would be an important element, and inclusive and accessible by design. For example, we can use the language translations are available. Sign language convention is available. The visually impaired can have alternatives. The audio impaired can have alternatives. You have real-time feedback and assessment. You detect misconceptions early and give instant and constructive feedback. Ethical and critical thinking is integrated into the learning, and you pose ethical case studies and dilemmas for the student to learn and to become familiar. So the teacher is no longer just a lecturer, but a mentor and a critical thinking facilitator, as we talked earlier, as a learning architect. And these are the dimensions I see. And there's also, you're talking about today, we are not talking about just a localized class. We're talking about localized classrooms in one university. In the days to come, we can have these opportunities for global AI facilitated teams. And also, of course, we're going to have privacy and ethics safeguards built in for the students because they own their data even in the long term. And I think that these are some of the elements which we can expect let's say, in the next 10 years.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Anand, for sharing such valuable insights. It's been a truly inspiring discussion on how new technologies are transforming curriculum design and the learning experience. I'm sure our listeners will take away a lot of ideas to reimagine education for the future. Until next time, keep learning and keep innovating. Thank you.
Thank you.